I believe these difficult times, they could diminish you, or these difficult times can develop you. Ultimately, we decide. People will forget what you say, they'll forget what you did. They'll always remember how you made them feel. I believe the life you live are the lessons you teach. A lot of people know what to do, but they're not doing what they know. Not everybody has the same income, not everybody has the same network, not everybody has the same level of education, but we all have 24 hours in a day.
I take 3 types of notes. I write down what they are teaching, I write down how they're teaching it, and then I write down what am I going to do.
Ooh, I like that. Fun way of taking notes, put a line right down the page, and on the left side, capture, and on the right side,
Welcome to another episode of the Dan Lok Show. Today, I am thrilled to have someone very, very special. Someone actually, his work has impacted my career and my life. Now, to compete nowadays, doesn't matter in your career or in business, we need to learn faster. We could all agree with that. So today, I have Jim Kwik, and that's his real last name, with me, and very, very special guest, a world-class leader when it comes to brain performance and just mental enhancement and also memory as well. So Jim, welcome to the show. I know that you follow my work for some time, and so I'm glad that we connect.
yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you everyone who's joining us for this brainy conversation.
Yeah, brainy conversation. So Jim, take us back a little bit. How did you even got into the whole brain enhancement and performance and learning, like this whole space? Because I know you weren't always a super bright student when you were getting started.
No, my inspiration really was my desperation. When people see the finished product, they on Instagram or Facebook, or they see me live, I do these mental feats where maybe I'll memorize 50 people's names in an audience, or 100 people's names, or 100 words or numbers forwards and backwards. But I tell people I don't do this to impress you. I do this to really express to you what's possible, because the truth is every single person who's here with us, they could do that too, and even more, much more, regardless of their age, background, career, education level, gender, history, IQ. And the reason why I know is because I grew up with some pretty severe learning challenges. When I was 5 years old, I had an accident in kindergarten class, a very bad fall, a traumatic brain injury. And from there, I had very bad focus, very poor memory, very poor. It took me an extra 3 years just to learn how to read. And so it was challenging. It was very embarrassing. When I was 9 years old, I was slowing down the entire class, and a teacher pointed to me in front of the whole class and said, "That's the boy with the broken brain." That label became my limit. And so I struggled all through school. And when I was 18, I discovered strategies and tools and resources to be able to level up my learning, be able to read faster, be able to have better focus, be able to remember things, be able to cut my studying time, and help me to not only learn faster, but also achieve more also. And I've devoted my life since then, almost 3 decades later, every single day, helping people build better, brighter brains. My mission really is no brain left behind.
I love that. I love that. No brain left behind. So during that process, did you have any mentors guiding you, or was it more like a self-discovery? Can you learn a little bit here, a little bit there? What was that process like?
So I'm a big believer in mentors, and that's why I really appreciate the work that you do. I think it's the fastest way to shortcut your process, to learn from other people's experience. If somebody has decades of experience like you do, and you put it into a coaching or a book or something, and people could sit down and they could learn in a few days, you get decades of experience, and it's such an advantage. For me, my parents, I come from immigrant parents, like yourself. Yes. My dad lost both his parents when he was 13, and moved to the United States to live with his aunt because they couldn't afford to feed him. My mom worked in the back of a laundromat that, her parents worked at. And, so we didn't have a lot of, money, and they speak the language, and it was, they didn't have any network connections, had no education. But they were great mentors to me because while they're not the wealthiest or the most spiritual or the most health conscious, and they've never meditated or read a book on personal development, they're just really good people. They work really hard. They They are very kind. And so they were my original, anything that's good that's come out of me, I attribute to them. Anything that's where I fell short, that's on me. I take responsibility for that. Um, but growing up, I didn't really have formal mentors until I was 18 years old. I was ready to quit school, and because I was a freshman, I was lucky to get into a local university. I didn't have very good grades, but I thought being a freshman meant I could make a fresh start. I was the oldest of three. I was the oldest of three siblings, so I wanted to be a good role model also for my brother and my sister. And I took all these classes, and I did worse. And I didn't have the money to be in college, and I just thought I wasn't smart enough, and I was ready to quit. And a friend of mine, and this is in New York, was going to visit his family for the weekend, and he said, "Why don't you come with me? Why don't you get some perspective?" And I don't know about you, Dan, but I think getting a different point of view is sometimes healthy. Different place, change the people you're around, gives
Your
you
environment.
yeah, your environment makes a difference, and the family is pretty well off. Very different than the way I grew up. His father was walking me around his property before dinner, right on the water, and asked me a very simple question, but the worst question you could ask me. He said, "Jim, how's school?" And I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I just start bawling right in front of this complete stranger, telling my whole story, learning challenges, broken brain, ready to quit school, don't so much pressure, don't know how to tell my parents. They're going to be disappointed. And he's like, "Jim, why are you in school? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have? What do you want to share?" And honestly, Dan, I didn't have an answer because no one's ever asked me those questions
Very
before.
deep questions.
Yeah, deep questions. And if no one's ever you've never asked those questions, you don't have those answers prepared. And I finally go to answer him, and he stops, and he takes out a notebook or a diary out of his back pocket, and he rips out a couple of sheets, and he makes me write them down. And I don't know how much time goes by, but after a little while, I have a bucket list. And when I'm done, I start folding up the sheets to put in my pocket. And then he grabs them right out of my hand. And I'm freaking out, Dan, because here's this complete stranger who I didn't even know. He's obviously very successful. Now he's reading all my dreams that I've never shared with anybody. Right. And even just talking about it makes me a little bit nervous and little choked up. But when he looks up, he says, "Jim, you are this close to everything on that list." And he spreads his index fingers maybe a foot apart. And I'm like, "No way, give me 10 lifetimes. I'm not going to crack that
feels like
list."
that, right?
I know. Give me that
what do you mean like
football
this?
field. He's like, "Not that close." He's like, "I'm not that close. I know it. I'm fighting for my limitations." Right. And I'm like, "No, give me all this time. I'm not going to be able to do that." And he takes his fingers and he puts them to the side of my head, to the side of my temple, meaning what's in between, is the bridge, is the key,
Profound,
my brain.
profound.
And he takes me into his home, into a room that I've never seen before. You'd appreciate it because I've seen your videos.
Yes.
It's like wall to wall, ceiling to floor, covered in books.
Oh, yes.
I've never seen a library in somebody's home before.
Yes.
And keep in mind, I've never read a book cover to cover. My teachers would have been surprised if I read a book, much less wrote a book. It took me. I'm almost scared of books, and so it's like being in a room full of snakes. But what makes it worse is he starts going to each of the shelves and grabbing snakes and handing them to me, right? And he starts handing me these titles, and I start looking at them, and there are these books of some really amazing men and women in history, and some very early personal growth books. I mean, the ones that you've read,
Yes.
Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking,
yes.
Psycho-Cybernetics,
Yes.
And just all of Dale Carnegie, like all these classics, right?
How to Win Friends and Influence People, right?
Exactly. All the ones that, leaders read. And I was just like, "Why is he giving me these books?" And he says, "Jim, I want you to read one book a week." And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Have you not heard my story? Right? I want to stick to my limitations, right? I'm learning challenges. I can't do this.
The label.
Exactly. And I say, "I have all this schoolwork too." And when I say schoolwork, he looks at me, he says, "Jim, don't let school get in the way of your education." Ooh. And I didn't realize, this is almost 30 years ago, that I didn't realize it was a Mark Twain quote. Yes. But I was like, that's very, powerful and profound, but still, I'm not going to, if I promise I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, but I can't do it. And very smart man, he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out my bucket list, which he still has, the list of my dreams and my goals. And he has the audacity, Dan, to read every single one out loud. And there's something about you as an 18-year-old insecure kid hearing your dreams, fantasies, goals in another person's voice incanted out in the world. It messed with my mind, my heart, my soul. It really shook up my soul, something fierce. And honestly, a lot of the things on that list were things I wanted to do for my parents, things they could never afford or would never even, if they had the money, they would do it for themselves.
Yes.
And that leverage, that motivation made me commit to, you talk about finding your why and your purpose.
Yes.
It made me say, yes, I'll do it. I'll read one book a week. And then fast forward, I go back to school and I'm sitting at my desk and I have a pile of books I have to read for midterms and a pile of books I promised to read. And I already couldn't get through pile A. So what do? I don't eat, I don't sleep, I don't work out, I don't spend time with, I just live in the library, like just all-nighters in the library, not taking care of myself.
Yes.
A few weeks into it, I pass out of sheer exhaustion, 2 o'clock at night. I fall down a flight of stairs. I hit my head again at the library. And I wake up 2 days later in the hospital. And at this point, I'm down to like 117 pounds. I mean, I am wasting away. I thought I died. Part of me wished probably I did. It was just, I felt like I wasn't worth anything. I wasn't smart enough. I was so stupid.
Not good enough.
All that, and just very depressed. And when I woke up, I said, there has to be a better way. And when I had that thought, the nurse came in with a mug of tea. And on that mug was a picture of Albert Einstein, a complete genius. And his quote, which you've heard in some iteration, the same level of thinking that has created your problem won't solve your problem.
Yes.
And it made me think, what's my problem?
It's almost like a sign.
It was almost like that. It's so crazy because back in high school, I was failing high school English, right? And they called my parents in and they're like, we can't pass you. He's like, my teacher was like, we can't pass your child in class. He's failing. And then we begged it for an opportunity. And she said, okay, well, I'll give you extra credit. Do this book report on Albert Einstein and I'll pass you. And I do that book report. I never put my whole heart into something for weeks and weeks. And every day at the library, not doing sports, not doing any video games, anything. And the day I had to hand it in, I had it professionally bound. I was so proud of this work, the best work I've ever done in high school. And I go to school in class, and the teachers at the end of class says, I have a surprise for all of you. Jim, come to the front and give your book report. And I freak out because I didn't know how to present it. Because when you grow up as the boy with the broken brain, my superpower was shrinking down, sitting behind a tall kid in class when you don't have the answers, and you don't want to be judged. So I was so nervous, my heart's beating out of my chest. I looked at the teacher, I said, I didn't do it. And I lied. And when everyone, you could see the disappointment in her face, when everyone left on the way out, I was the only one there. I grabbed my book bag. I took out my book report, all shiny and just bound, and I threw it in the garbage. And part of it, I felt like I was throwing out my own potential and my dreams. But going back to that hospital bed, it's kind of like, Einstein was talking to me, the guy I did all that research on, because he had learning challenges in school also. And he wasn't like everybody else. And I felt like I wasn't either. And so, I was bullied. I was small. I was the only two Asians in, my high school. And the other
one of the only 3 Asians in my school.
Oh, really? Yeah. The 1 year ahead of me, his name is Roger Lee. Yeah. He was a valedictorian, president of the debate team and the chess club and the math club and just perfect SATs. And I just couldn't ever measure up in any of those ways. But anyway, when I saw that mug, I said, what's my problem? And I was like, I'm a very slow learner. And I thought, how do I learn to learn better? I thought school. Yeah, I thought school would teach me. And I looked at the course bulletin for next semester's classes and hundreds of pages, all classes on what to learn, math, history, science, Spanish, 0 classes on how to learn, how to focus, how to read faster, how to remember, how to think, solve problems. And so I put my studies aside and I started studying those things. In 60 days of studying ancient mnemonics, speed reading, adult learning theory, multiple intelligence theory, a light switch flipped on and I just started to understand things. And my grades improved, shot through the roof. And not only that, my confidence did too. And I started to teach it because I couldn't help but help other people. My first student, why I'm here with you today, she read 30 books in 30 days. 30 books in 30 days, not skim or scan. She actually read full comprehension. And I wanted to find out, not how, I know how, I taught her. I want to know why. I'm very interested in what motivates people.
Yes.
And I found out her mother was dying of terminal cancer, and the
Yes.
book she was in, doctors gave her, a guy get choked up, her mother 2 months to live. And the book she was reading were books to save her mom's life. And she ended up doing so. And she attributed it all to great information she got from her daughter, who learned it from all these books. And in that moment, I realized that if knowledge is power, learning is our superpower. Learning is our superpower. It's a superpower we all have. And it's a superpower I'm committed to helping people to unlock.
I remember I think the first time I came across your work, I was watching the videos on probably either Facebook or YouTube. And I came across your video, and I think it was someone was interviewing you, I believe. And I saw that, and because I think in the education space, in the mainstream education space with what we do, I don't see a lot of instructors or speakers that are Asian. So it caught my eyes. I was like, wow. And at first I didn't know who you were. I said, this man is very articulate, like super smart. I'm like, this is very interesting. So then I dive into more your story and I watch more of your videos. And what fascinates me is because how much I could relate. Because when I went to school, I flunked English twice when I was in high school. I had stage phobia, like all these things I had to go through. So then I can relate to really what we've done is we turn our pain into now our strength, right? We turned that into, like you said, the desperation into destiny. And now like we are educating, we're teaching so many people. And people look at what we do. It's like, oh, of course, easy for you to say. It's you always do this, and really, it's because we struggle so much with this problem, and now it's like we have this drive and say, we don't want you to suffer from that problem anymore, right? Yeah. We've gone through that. So I love that. Would you say, Jim? Then let's say for someone listening and watching this video, share with us. Let's break down to the fundamentals. How does the brain work and how we can learn faster? Doesn't matter if they're entrepreneurs, doesn't matter if they're students, doesn't matter if they're professionals, like what can they do to learn faster?
Absolutely. So I appreciate this because I think learning how to learn is one of the most important skills to master today.
Yes.
Because the faster you could learn, the faster you could earn.
Yes.
And because knowledge is not only power, today knowledge is profit. Nobody watching this right now gets paid completely for their brute strength. It's your brain strength. Yes. It's not your muscle power, it's your mind power. And so that's why I love having this conversation. And even like everyone is thinking about this right now, like, you feel absent-minded, like senior moments are coming too early. I believe two of the most costly words sometimes in business are simple words like, I forgot. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot that meeting. I forgot that conversation. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot that person's name. Every time we say those words, we lose credibility. We lose trust. We could lose opportunity. We could lose a sale even. Yes. And so on the other side, memory could actually make you money when you can remember names and faces, client information, product information, be able to do sales videos from memory.
Even the basics of how to win friends, influence people. One of the chapters, remember people's name.
Exactly. And then even a lot of the things that you teach, I was watching one of your videos few weeks ago. It was one of your older videos, but it was just on the 10 habits of, highly successful people. If you could just commit those 10, and be able to take responsibility, decide what you want, believe it is possible, visualize success, act as, and feel that, act as
the fundamentals of success.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could learn something, but there's also a forgetting curve. And sometimes we'll learn something, we'll read something and then forget it just after we read it, or even a couple of days after. And so, be able to learn how to learn will help you to be able to learn copywriting and closing and public speaking and digital marketing, software development, anything you want to learn afterwards. And so your brain is number one wealth building asset that we have. It just doesn't come with an owner's manual, and it's not user friendly, right? And we upgrade more. Think about how often we upgrade our phones and our apps.
Well, now with the new iPhone, we upgraded again.
I know, I just did that too, because I went to the new camera from our social media and everything.
Yes.
But what about this device, the most important device that controls everything between our ears? And so the human brain is remarkable. We're talking about 86 billion neurons and that are firing together. It is the most adaptable. It is our superpower. I know I also have like these life-size superheroes.
Yes.
And so I have them, and it's one of the things that I have the Iron Man and the 10-foot Hulk in my backyard.
Oh, love that.
And part of it is because I I didn't have much of a childhood, because of that. And I just like they
I think
represent
both of
superheroes.
us are the same. I think why we buy toys and things like that is because I think we didn't have that. So now when we could
Yeah,
afford it, now it's
they're
like
like
make up for lost time, right? I
they're
think
exactly
I
they're
think that's
this.
the psychology.
Yeah, and I think they're a symbol, a reminder of superheroes. They're flawed, but they've
Mm,
discovered and developed their superpowers. But just having a superpower doesn't make you a superhero. You
yes.
have to use that superpower to serve, like you are,
Responsibility, yes.
right? And
Yes.
I think that's why we're here. We learn to earn to
Yes.
return,
Yes.
learn to earn and then return. And so, but I talk about superpowers, and mine was being, shrinking down as a kid. I know you talk about
Mm,
being invisible, right?
yes.
But like, I'm talking about modern superpowers, not just leaping tall buildings and shooting lasers out of your eyes, but imagine having laser focus. Imagine
Mm,
having be able to leap through tall stacks of books,
yes.
quickly, and be able to. Those are real powers. Having a
Mm,
not being bulletproof, but having a bulletproof memory. Those are real
yes.
practical things that will help you with your career and your life.
Mm,
So talking about all this, there are certain things you could do to learn faster,
mm,
and they're core principles. I don't think anyone would argue or debate them, And so I would remember this first. Everyone remember FAST, F-A-S-T. And this is a
FAST.
quick acronym. I'm going to go through it. Super, super abbreviated.
Mm,
So if you want to learn any subject or skill, think about it. What subject or skill would you want to learn? Would you want to learn coaching? Do you want to learn funnel building? Do you want to
or
learn
new language, or
cybersecurity,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
copywriting?
Mm-hmm.
And so the F stands for forget. If you want to learn something fast, you have to forget what you currently know. Because, a lot of people, and you know this, Dan, a lot of people say they have
Mm-hmm.
20 years of
Of
sales
experience. Yeah.
experience, but maybe they only have 1 year of experience
Yes.
and they've repeated 20 times because they haven't learned anything new because they feel like
Yes.
they know it all. So I think
Yes.
it's important to begin with a beginner's mind.
Mm,
And so F is forget what you know,
mm,
because your mind's like a parachute, only works when it's opened. I would also say
yes.
forget about distractions,
Mm,
because we find that a lot of people don't learn well because they're not focused. Because while even they're watching something like this or listening, they're on Slack and social media and we cannot multitask. Multitasking is a myth. All the research has shown that what we really are doing is task switching. We're going from one
okay.
task to another.
Okay. Yes.
And yeah, exactly. And what it's costing us, there are three things to our productivity. Number one is costing us time, because every single time we go from one task to another, it takes anywhere from 5, maybe 10 minutes to regain our focus. Number
Mm,
two, it costs us mistakes. And I got to train world leaders and CEOs and top actors
celebrities.
and
Mm-hmm.
doctors, like, what they're doctors, they've shown that when they try to cognitively process more than one thing at a time, they make more errors. And so you don't want to make those mistakes. And then also, not only does it cost us time and mistakes, it costs us energy, because when you switch from one task to another repeatedly, you burn more blood glucose, and
Mm-hmm.
leads to mental fatigue and
Mm,
brain fatigue, and you wonder why you can't, you don't have the reserves there.
mm,
And so what I would say is forget not only what you know about a subject when you're learning it here, but also forget about distractions temporarily.
the
And
focus. Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. So forget and focus. The A stands for active. And you talk
Mm,
about this, like,
yes.
just like learning, like life is not a spectator sport. You need
Yes.
to roll up your sleeves and get involved. The human brain doesn't learn through consumption, it learns
Mm,
through creation, right? And
mm,
so we don't learn the best just being lectured to, because it's not a spectator sport. So how can we get more involved? How can we ask questions? How can we take notes? Right.
mm,
And great whole brain note taking technique. We know that handwriting notes is actually better than digitally taking notes from a learning perspective, comprehension,
yes.
retention.
Yes.
Um, Digital is better for storage, is better for sharing, certainly, but handwriting notes, it's just very kinesthetic. Plus, you could type pretty fast, most people, but you can't write as fast as someone could talk. And so it
Mm,
forces you to really filter and say, what's important here, and organize it before you write it down.
mm,
And I would say a fun way of taking notes, put a line right down the page, and on
okay.
the left side, capture, and on the right side, create. So this is a very
Mm,
simple whole brain note taking method I encourage people to do for performance. On the left side, you capture how to remember names, how to read faster, how to take notes, right? On the
mm,
right side, you don't capture, you create. So left side, you're taking notes. On the right
mm,
side, you're making notes. And so
mm,
you're writing your impressions of what you're capturing. So what would
mm,
that be? Things like, how am I going to use this? Questions that you have. Why must you use it? When are you going to use it? How does it relate to what you already know? Because if your right brain is going to be distracting you through your imagination and mind wandering,
yes.
I'd rather it distract on the right side of the page. So that's another
Yes.
way. The A is being active.
I love
The
that.
S in fast, and again, you talk a lot about this, is our state. Our state of mind affects our learning, because if you
Yes.
learn, a state is like the screenshot of your mood, of your mind and your
Yes.
body. Because if you learn something in a dull, bored state, like we did
Like
back in
this,
school,
I'm learning, like just
yeah,
in a school environment, right? Like falling asleep,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Nothing gets, the key to long-term memory is information is forgettable, but
Yes.
information combined with emotion becomes unforgettable.
You lock it
And
in.
so we always can control the way we feel through through our thoughts, through our body, through our breathing, our posture, our facial expressions. And what I would just remind everybody here, we all have like a song you could hear, it take you back when you're a teenager. There's a fragrance or a food, it could take you back to when you were a child. So emotion connected to information becomes long term. And you know this, even people, we're not logical, right? We don't buy logically, we buy
We're emotional.
emotionally, right? Because we are not logical, we are biological. You think
Yes.
about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin,
Yes.
endorphins, we are this
Yes.
feeling soup. And
Yes.
so even like when it comes to memory, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We've all read the same literature, and it's
Yes.
hard to show somebody you're going to care for their business, their future, their finances, their health, their family, whatever it is you have to offer them, if you don't care enough just to remember them. Maya Angelou, one of my favorite poets, she said, people will forget what you say, they'll forget what you did. They'll always remember how you made them feel.
Feel.
So we are
Yes.
feeling creatures. And so it's head, heart, hands, H3. You
Yes.
can visualize things in your head, set goals in
Yes.
your head, KPIs in your head.
Even
But
this
if
head, heart, hand that
but if you're
helps
not
us to
acting with your,
remember.
exactly, but if you're not
Yeah.
acting with your hands, you're procrastinating, you're putting it off. Check in with the second H, which is your heart, the symbol of emotions, right? The energy of motion is the fuel that fuels your car, the vehicle of through life, right? To activate your hands. And so, find your why, start with why, your purpose, and find, even like when you want to remember names. A lot of people, they don't remember all names, but they don't forget all names either. Who are the people that they remember, the people they have emotions for, the
Yes.
people they're attracted to, the
They
people that can
love
be,
or they hate.
right, exactly, or hate too. They
Yeah.
remember those people
Right.
very well, or
Yeah.
people that could be good for their business, right? So we have to, we could find emotions. We could ask ourselves questions to tap more emotions. Why do I want to remember this person's name? Maybe to show the person respect, to make a new friend, maybe get a referral, maybe to practice these things I learned, from this conversation, right? Because Jim Rohn said, what you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public. So you practice, right? So that's the S, is manage your state. And because the state you learn something in is the state you're going to encode it and store it in. And then finally, the T in FAST, to learn anything faster, is to teach it. Is to
Yes.
teach it right away. Your intent
Yes.
matters. I know we're going to talk about other things, that people from right here thought about somebody I wish was listening to this. Not only share it with them, definitely do that, share and post it and everything, but also think about if you had to give a TED talk, on Monday, to your team or to your family about some of the things you learned. Like, would you pay attention differently? Would you take notes better? Would you ask? Would you
Yes.
get involved? So when you teach something, you get to learn it twice, and that's really the goal. So there's just 4 little brain hacks just to keep in mind to learn a subject or skill faster.
I love it because something I always talk about is the best way to learn it is to teach it, right? Because you got to internalize it. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons I love teaching because it forces me to up level my game, but I need to take very complex subject and then simplify in a way that my students would understand, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's okay. It's one thing to say I'm good, but how can I make you good? I need to
Yeah.
distill
That's
the
what
concepts, right?
Exactly. And that's what leaders do. They're creating other people who can lead also as well. They call it, when you teach it to someone else, it's sometimes called the explanation effect. When you're explaining it to somebody else,
Yes,
you're going to
yes,
own it. And even when you
yes.
explain it, you're not going to use those same exact words. You're going to use your
Correct,
own words. So
correct.
it's going to be more integrated. And that's the other thing, it's a lie that knowledge by itself is power, right? Knowledge is potential power, only because power when we utilize it. The
Yes,
truth is, all the books, coaching programs, online programs, podcasts, none of it works unless they work, right? Unless
correct,
we work also as well.
correct.
A lot of people buy books and they sit on your shelf and they
Right.
become shelf help, not
Self-help
self
books.
help.
That's
And they
right.
don't really, because buying a book is a different skill set and habit than reading a book.
Yeah,
But a
then
lot of
using a
people
book.
do,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't like to read because they're not good at it, because they have poor focus, they put some to sleep, they don't remember a lot of what they read, they do it so slowly. And because it's a skill, like copywriting is a skill, like
Correct.
closing is a
It's a
skill,
skill.
like
Yes.
digital online marketing is a skill.
Yes.
You're not born with the ability to read, you were taught it.
Yes.
But when's the last time you took a class called reading?
Yes.
6, 7 years old. And so most of us
If
have
that,
very
yes.
outdated, we have very outdated skills. And if you were to use, old, marketing methods that was back then, or health methods, it was decades old, you wouldn't get the same kind of results based on today's information and research. Same thing with learning, but we've discovered more about the human brain in the past 10 years than the previous 1,000 years combined. And what we find is we're grossly underestimating our own capabilities.
And I love the idea of the capture and create. One of the things I do, I'm kind of accidentally using a technique that you're teaching. So when I go to seminar, it's very interesting because I have someone sitting next to me, and they would see me bringing up I will have three notepad, right? They're like, why do you have like three notepad? What is going on, Dan? So actually, let's say when I go to an event, I take three types of notes. I write down what they are teaching, so whatever the speaker is teaching. I write down how they're teaching it, how they're conducting the event, how they are using the stage, right? And then I write down what am I going to do.
Oh, I
So,
like that.
so this is all, it's action steps. So I remember one time I was attending an event years ago for digital marketing, years ago. And at the time, the speaker was talking about a pop-up, if you remember, like a pop-up to capture email. Now, that time was revolutionary, right?
Yeah.
And it's a 2-day event. I remember he taught the technique first day, and we had a couple hundred people. Second day, the speaker was asking, so how many of you understand the technique? How many have implemented what I taught, right? Then I put up my hand. I was the only one that did that. Because I went back to my hotel room, I was already coding it, HTML, and putting in the top pop-up. And I was sharing with the group, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Here's the result. It's actually working. I was validating that pop-up actually gets more subscribers. So the speaker was like, this is awesome, but none of you guys are implementing. What's going on? So Dan is implementing here. Because I take notes from, I'm going to do it, right? And I found that is like the learning superpower, but the ability to execute quick, to like that speed. It's very, very critical.
That's huge. It's speed of learning and speed of implementation and
Yes.
execution. There's who is it? Eric Ries, who are Lean Startup. He says
Leading
the only
startup.
way to win is to learn faster than anyone else. Jack
Yes.
Welch is famous for saying an organization's ability to learn and translate that learning into action rapidly is the
Yes.
ultimate competitive advantage. And that's what you demonstrate, right? You are where you are in your life. I believe the life you live are the lessons you teach. So you're a person of action, because a lot of people know what to do, but they're not doing
Yes.
what they know.
Correct.
And I feel like that's the real tragedy, when people go out there, they invest in something and they don't use it,
They don't use
or
it.
they don't even learn it, or they don't
They don't
apply
even
it.
log in. They don't even
I
log
know.
in.
And they think, because people feel like just buying something is just they have points for that.
They
But
get that dopamine kick, right?
exactly. But reading a book or not reading it or not implementing it, you're no better off than somebody who can't read. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Than somebody who is illiterate. And this is, we're both coaches. So like a coach doesn't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. And people need to go to the things and put things into action, because
Yes.
it's better. And even in marketing, it's better well done than well said. Don't promise it, prove it. Don't say it, show it. And let your results speak for themselves. And what you use the time that people use to make excuses or to complain, because you can't be upset by the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. You know what I mean? It just, people have to invest that time and energy, that attention, or the time that they're spending just like, scrolling and
Watching
just
TV and yeah.
mindlessly, or binge watching, stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so the one thing that we all have is 86,400 seconds in a day. Not everybody has the same income. Not everybody has the same network. Not everybody has the same level of education, but we all have 24 hours in a day. And so, how are we using that every single day? We have one day to get it. We have this day right now to get it right, and then it's gone. And I'm just saying, like, we have one life. Why are we running towards our dreams like we're on fire?
Jim, is
Well,
there any food or
yeah.
supplement, anything you recommend that would help us with brain performance?
Completely. And so in the book, we talk about the strategies, right? The software of languages and names and, numbers, and having this stuff, reading faster, solving problems, exponential thinking. But you also have to take care of the hardware, right? If that's the software, the process, you have to take care of the hardware. So really quickly, there are 10 things everybody needs to be doing when they finish listening to this. And what I want everyone to do is write these down
Yes.
and rate yourself
Create
on
and
a scale.
capture.
Right,
Capture and
exactly.
create.
Yeah, exactly. And rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 to
Okay.
see how much energy and effort you're putting towards it.
Got it.
Right. Because this is all important. So, because you'll see one area, there's not just one thing we have to take care of all these things. And that's the thing. We have to do all the work. It's that simple, but it's that hard also. So here we go. Number one is good brain diet. We'll start with that. As you mentioned it, there's certain foods that are really good for the brain. We talk about in the book, neuronutrition, that your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the nutrients because it uses up a lot of energy. And so some of the best foods have been shown to help with, to be neuroprotective, good for your focus and memory. Avocados, blueberries, I like to call them brain berries. Broccoli is good for the brain. Olive oil, eggs, if your diet allows, the choline in eggs is good for cognitive activity. Green leafy vegetables, kale, spinach, wild salmon, sardines, good for the brain. Turmeric is good for the brain. Saffron is good for the brain. Those spices, walnuts, they look like the human brain. Dark chocolate, good for the brain. So these are just some foods. You could take a lot of those and put it into a blender and make a brain power smoothie. Probably not the salmon and sardines, but
have it as a lunch.
Exactly. Yes. So that's really good. And then number two, so rate yourself 0 to 10. What you want to stay away from is processed foods, high sugar foods, not good for the brain.
Yeah, makes us dumb.
Exactly. So what you eat matters, especially for your gray matter.
Yeah.
And there's certain foods. These foods also reduce anxiety because a lot of people are under a lot of stress.
Yes.
Number two, killing ants is good for the brain. And I got this from a brain doctor, Dr. Daniel Amen. And ANT stands for automatic negative thoughts. And you talk a lot about mindset.
Yes.
And it's the words that we use. And so just be conscious of it, because your brain is like a supercomputer and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself you're not good at remembering people's names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet, because
like someone says, "Oh, I'm not good with numbers, and I don't always remember."
Exactly.
What it is. Yeah.
And people come self-fulfilling prophecy. They come to you all the time and like, "Oh, I can't do.
I'm shy."
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm not smart enough. And I always say, stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. So people say like, I can never be good at copy, or I can never learn to do online, you have to check that mindset. And so that's number two on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being great, encouraging, and just rate yourself. Number three, really quickly, exercise.
Yes.
Write this.
Get the blood flowing.
Exactly. What's good for your heart's good for your head. Blood flow would mean more oxygen for your brain. Yes. As your body moves, your brain grooves. And I don't mean just doing like CrossFit or Pilates 3 times a week, moving every single day, because they say sitting is the new smoking. And it's not a judgment. It's just we're behind screens all the time. And when you move your body, you create brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, which is like fertilizer for your brain. And so it's important to take breaks and go for a 5-minute walk, stretch. Best time to exercise, by the way, they did a study done at Appalachian State University for weight management and deep sleep. Is it morning, afternoon, or evening? 7 a.m. they tested, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. They found it was 7 a.m. Those who exercise at 7 a.m. It doesn't have to be your full workout, but at least 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes of burpees or jumping jacks, calisthenics. They had 75% deeper sleep. So I don't do my workout in the morning, but I'll get 3 minutes in right when I get out of bed. But exercise. So on a scale of 0 to 10, rate yourself. Number 4, brain nutrients. Meaning if you don't get it from your food, I always prefer food. Maybe you need to supplement, maybe ginkgo biloba, vitamin Bs, vitamin E's, neuroprotective. The number one, omega-3s, DHA, because your brain is mostly fat. And so most people are deficient in those nutrients.
Are there certain brands that you would recommend that?
Yeah, so I don't recommend specific brands, but when you want a high quality fish oil, DHA, and that's what people find that it has it's neuroprotective, it's wonderful for your focus, wonderful for anti-aging, wonderful for your memory also as well.
Got it.
And but we talk about all the foods and we do recipes. I always prefer people get it from foods because it has all the cofactors there. I think nature is like the best medicine. But that's a great question. So that's number 4 is brain nutrients. Number 5 is a positive peer group, and you talk about it often. Again, who you spend time with is who you become. Be careful if you spend time with 9 broke people, because you're going to be number 10. And the reason why is because we have these things called mirror neurons, and our mirror neurons is when you watch sports or entertainment, you feel what they're feeling. You're imitating. You could feel those. It creates empathy. So we start mirroring, adapting the language of the people around us, the habits, the behaviors, You want to make sure you watch. Everyone write down on the left side, watch,
Watch.
WATCH.
Hmm.
W stands for words. Watch your A, actions. T, watch your thoughts. H, watch your character. And then C, your character, and H, your habits.
Habits.
First, you create your habits, then your habits create you. You create your habits of working out and prioritizing your sleep and eating right, journaling, meditating, and those habits create you back. But that's number 5 is a positive peer group. And so on a scale of 0 to 10, how encouraging, how challenging, how much cheerleading are they doing for you? And we choose our peers, our families. We can love our families and our friends, but we could
Yes.
choose the people that, we let influence
Yes.
us. That's halfway there. 5. 6 is a clean environment. That's
Mm.
self-explanatory. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. You know this when you clean your office or you make your bed or you clean your desktop, you have clarity of thought.
Yes.
So
I was
make
actually teaching a class to my students. I talk about cleaning up their messes. And I said to them that, because I wrote the book, Unlock It, I said, every lock is on a gate that keeps abundance out.
Ooh, I like that.
I
Yeah,
said
I
those
noticed.
emotional messes, physical messes, everything. I said the mess laughs at you, belittles you, it lowers your self-esteem. Imagine you come to the car and, oh, sorry, my car is messy. Like before they sit down, like
Yeah,
that's how you start the conversation. I said that's not good for your self-esteem. Versus you come in, there's nothing to explain. You come to my home, there's nothing to
exactly.
explain, right? It's like those little things that makes a huge difference. So yeah.
Yeah, I really do believe that, Dan. I think like even I have a video has like 10 million views. It's just Jim Quick's morning routine and the
Yes.
things that I do. But just like I remember my dreams and I hydrate, do everything's for my brain. But even
Yes.
making your bed first thing in the morning, even
Yes.
if you have someone to do that for you, it's just
Yes.
you do something with excellence because how you do anything is how you do everything. And you
Yes.
start your day with success and you take that
Yes.
level, that standard, and the other things do. And plus, when you come back at the end of the day, talk about clean environment, it just
Mm,
feels good to come back
mm,
full circle
mm,
to
mm,
success,
mm.
and so that's why they do it in the military. They train you to do that. But so that's clean environment. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how clean is your environment?
Yes.
7 is sleep.
Yes.
When we don't sleep, I don't know about you, but how's your focus the next day? How's your memory? How's your ability
Yeah.
to think and solve problems and lead? And so why for your brain you want to sleep because it's where you consolidate short to long-term memory. So if you have
Mm,
long-term memory issues, check your sleep. Number
mm.
2, it's where you clean out plaque that leads to
Yes.
brain aging challenges like
Yeah.
Alzheimer's and
Mm-hmm.
dementia.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your sewage system kicks in.
Yeah.
And this is we donated 100% of the proceeds for our book
Mm,
to charity, 100%. And a part of it went to Alzheimer's research for women
mm,
in memory of
mm,
my grandmother, who I lost when my parents were working all those jobs. My dad's aunt, who I only knew as my grandmother,
mm.
took care of me. But then when I was going through my challenges at 5 or 6, she started showing signs of dementia. And then I started taking care of her,
Mm.
and it was just hard when she was calling me by my father's name or forget she just said something to the same thing 30 seconds ago. Because when you lose your memory, you can lose like your humanity, like who
Mm.
you are. And that's why I'm so
Your
passionate.
identity.
So
Mm.
we donate all that. And then we also build schools everywhere from Ghana to Guatemala to Kenya. We just did another $50,000 to Pencils of Promise this month. Build the schools, pay for the teachers, clean water, healthcare. But going back to this, also the contribution, again, learn, earn to return. It also gets you out of stress when you contribute. It gets you out
Yes.
of fear. Chronic stress shrinks your brain. Chronic fear actually suppresses your immune system. So it actually makes you more susceptible to colds, the flus, the
Mm.
viruses, whole area of science I talk about called psychoneuroimmunology. So that's why it's important to not be fearful, because fear and viruses are contagious, but so is wisdom, so is momentum, so is kindness, right? So is
Mm.
compassion.
Gratitude. Mm-hmm.
And so gratitude and all that stuff will also help you sleep better, doing a
Mm.
gratitude exercise before you go to bed. So I have the
Yes.
whole chapter on how to optimize your sleep. And then it's also where you dream. People
Mm.
don't know, but a lot of people, they came up with great inventions or works of art in a dream. Mary Shelley came up with Frankenstein in her dream. Paul McCartney came up with the song Yesterday in his dream. Elias Howe created a sewing machine in his dream. A chemist created the periodic table in his dream, right? But what are you dreaming about? Because we'll probably spend 20 years sleeping of our life,
Mm.
3 to 5 years dreaming. There's
Yes.
treasure that's there, so it's
Mm.
important to sleep to get that treasure. And also I take search. We did a podcast. We have a podcast that's 15 minutes long, and how to remember dreams, 6 steps. And then finally, after sleep, you have 8, brain protection. I had 3 traumatic brain injuries before the age of 12, so wear a helmet. your brain is very resilient, but it's very fragile.
Mm.
I know you do martial arts.
Yes.
It's very important. I was thinking about you. I have this, I'm also a Bruce Lee fan.
Yes.
He passed the month that I was born, actually.
Mm.
And on his 70th birthday, his 80th birthday is, sorry, it was coming up now this month.
Yes. Yes.
But this is a picture of me and his wife and his daughter.
Oh wow,
And
Shannon, Linda.
this
Yes.
this hospital here
Mm.
is the hospital he was born in San Francisco, and it was the
Wow.
very first time they've ever visited. This was on his 70th birthday, so
Mm.
they took me into the room that he was born on his
Wow.
70th birthday, and they've never been there before. They tore down the hospital shortly after, but
Yes.
he's a big, I hear your stories. He's a big mentor in my mind to me
Yes.
also as well. But
Yes.
but you don't get kicked in the head very often. It's not good for your brain. So protect your
No,
brain is
no.
number
Just
8.
look at the retired boxers. Then you can have all the evidence you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then finally, 9 and 10. 9 is new learnings. And I'm preaching
Mm.
to the choir. Anyone who's
Mm.
listening to this is committed to lifelong learning,
Yes.
constant learning, like you teach about in terms of habit improvement,
Yes.
because it actually makes your brain stronger. And then finally, number 10, stress management.
Mm.
Because stress, as I mentioned, it shrinks your brain. When you're in fight or flight, it's not good if you need to study. It's not good if you need to prepare for meetings. It's not good if you need to make a sales video or give a sales
Mm.
presentation or give a TED talk when you're
Mm.
nervous and frightened and frozen. So what are you doing on a scale of 0 to 10 to cope with stress?
Mm.
Are you meditating? What are you doing to be able to take care of yourself? So those are 10 things you can do for the hardware for your brain. And, so if there's something that you're scoring less than 5 on, I would put
Yes.
attention there, because you could do everything right, but if you're not sleeping,
Mm.
that could throw everything off. You could do all that
Yes.
right, and then be around energy vampires. I think
Yes.
some people are batteries included, but some people batteries weren't included and they steal your batteries.
It's true. They
It can
suck the
bring you
life out of
down.
you.
Exactly, my friend.
Yes. Yeah, and I think very from your work, from my observation, we're not just talking about learning. What we're actually talking about is actually, I believe, is self mastery and emotional mastery.
Yeah.
Right.
I,
That's
I
what we're
believe
talking about.
Yeah, I believe now, like even with this book, I had an opportunity to delay the launch because of,
Mm.
the pandemic,
Yes.
and it came out during it, and it was really fortunate. It was, instant New York Times bestseller, number 1 Wall Street
Yes.
Journal. And
Yes.
I think it's because it's not just a book on learning how to read 3 times faster and remember names and languages. It's about
Yes.
mastering your mind in difficult times. It's
Yes.
about learning a new subject or skill if you've lost, if the economy's been disrupted. It's about how to optimize your focus or productivity if you're working from home, or if you have kids, how to help them if they're not in and out of school. And so I wrote it to be an owner's manual for the most important technology on the planet, which is the human mind, because I really do believe we're experiencing a unique moment in history that's disrupted every area of our life, and there's no guidebook.
Mm.
And how do we do a mental reboot to catalyze a new approach to how we learn, how we live, how we lead? And, I really do believe that when we're dealing with a lot, there's so much to process. You talk about work and family and health and
Mm.
the
Yes.
world, life in general,
Yes.
and so how do you become limitless in a limited world? We do it together, exactly what we're doing right now.
Yes.
That we don't have to do it alone. People have mentors like you. They
Mm.
have a community like what you've created.
Mm.
We have each other's back. And,
Mm.
it's corny. We've heard it so many times, but it's cliche, but it's often true. It's
It's true. Very,
team,
very true.
TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more, right?
And I highly, highly recommend the book. I have an Kindle version, and then I have a physical version as well. I love, love, love the book. And like you said, it's not. It's. If I was to come with a title, it's not even just about learning. It's how to tap into your superpower. It really is what it is to achieve whatever
Yeah.
goals that you want. Right.
There-
Uh,
there's a quote in there that makes me think about this conversation. It's from a French philosopher I put in the book,
mm,
and he says, "Life is the C between B and D. Life is C between B and D. B
mm,
stands for birth. D stands for death.
mm,
C stands for choice. All the choices. Our life is the sum total of all the choices we've made up to this point.
mm,
And I believe these difficult times, they could diminish you. These difficult times can destroy you, or
yes.
these difficult times can develop you.
Correct.
Ultimately, we decide.
Correct. I love it. Jim, thank you for being on the show. If my audience, if they want to find out more about your work, what's the best way to get in touch, or also to find you on social media, on the website?
Yeah, I would actually challenge everyone to take a screenshot of this
Mm,
and tag Dan and tag myself,
mm.
on Twitter or Facebook,
Facebook,
Instagram.
Instagram. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just at Jim Kwik, KW. You have to spell it right, KWIK, and
Yes.
everyone has to spell it right. But it's and then share one thing you're gonna do for a better
Yes.
brain. Maybe one of those
Yes.
10 things. Maybe
Mhm.
you're gonna prioritize your sleep. Maybe you're gonna start eating some brain food. Maybe you're gonna watch your negative self-talk. Maybe you're
Mhm.
gonna do some meditation for your stress, or maybe you're gonna get around some positive peers, get a mentor, schedule some reading time. Take a screenshot, tag us both so we see it. Teach. Remember, we started the conversation. When you teach
Yes.
something, you get to learn it better.
Share.
Teach one thing that you're doing so your fans, your followers, your family, your friends could benefit also. And I'll repost some of my favorites, and I'll actually send a signed copy of the book to one person just as a thank you for everyone
Thank you.
playing
Thank you.
here. And people could get the book at limitlessbook.com. It's absolutely, we give a 10-day course when people get the book. We donate 100% of the proceeds to education and brain research. So you'll get it. Not only will you learn and get a better brain, but so will a child and a senior. And then everything is, our podcast is at quickbrain.com,
Yes.
kwikbrain.com.
Yes.
And it's 15 minutes for busy people who want to learn faster and achieve more. We've done episodes on effective listening, learning languages, study, leadership of entrepreneurs, just anything around having to do with the brain. And I show you actually how to memorize the brain foods in one of the episodes, forwards and backwards. It's a fun show.
Yes, and thank you, Jim. I appreciate you, appreciate what you've done, and sharing this message with my audience. I think it's a message that everyone needs to hear to compete, especially during these uncertain times, covert
Yeah.
technology changes, disruptions, the ability to learn. Nothing is more important than that, because whatever we learn, chances are that's what we learn in school. Within a month or years, they're obsolete, and we have to
Yeah.
learn new things that we invent, right?
That's really what it is. Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is
Yes,
about progressing and advancing beyond what you believe is possible. And I
yes.
believe that there's a version of you that you haven't met yet. So we just keep showing up every single day until you're introduced. Like you are the greatest project you will ever get to work on. So take time, make time, create magic.
Keep learning and keep being limitless.